The disclosures on who got paycheck protection money continue. And surprise, surprise, there's a lot of Trump allies who received a lot of taxpayer bailouts from the government. So now let's go down the list. First, we've got White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Now, she didn't personally receive that money, but her family did. Her parents received millions of dollars in Paycheck Protection Program loans, according to data released by the Small Business Administration this week. Now, this was, of course, after pressure for Steven Mnuchin to begin releasing some of the recipients of that loan money. And by the way, we only have the particular ranges because they didn't actually release the official amounts. All right. So now, more here. So about McEnany. So her parents own a business called McEnany Roofing. It's a commercial roofing company owned by both of her parents, Michael and Leanne McEnany. They received somewhere between $1 to $2 million from the Paycheck Protection Program. So now, McEnany Roofing appears to employ close to about 30 people in its corporate offices, according to its website, and the total number of employees could not be determined. However, according to the loan data, McEnany Roofing said it employed about 141 people. And of course, the terms of the program, right? The program rules said that as long as the money is used to pay employees to keep them on the payroll, as well as to pay for things like rent and utilities, then the government will forgive the entire loan. And so it becomes a grant and essentially becomes is free money, right? Free money to continue paying payroll. So now the whole purpose is to keep people employed, and so that, people don't become unemployed and then go on the unemployment rolls. But it still ends up being government money. So now here's the thing. I agree with the goal of this, right? If you need to keep your employees, if you want to keep them, that's great. Again, I'm okay with paying, I'm more okay with paying the salaries of these employees, right? Making sure their salaries are paid for by government money instead of giving these corporations basically what is a bailout fund, right? Nonetheless, right? This is the situation. This is the program that we have because we live in America where corporations basically get whatever the hell they want. All right. That said, McEnany kind of has a history of being against government programs, especially free money from the government. Oh, right. But that's only when it comes to poor people like welfare. In fact, she said, quote, "It was exactly right that welfare recipients should feel enough shame to motivate themselves off of government assistance." Well, Kayleigh, maybe your parents should do the same thing. I mean, get themselves off the government teat, right? I mean, that's what you say, right? Now, in another segment, McEnany told Ed Henry back in April that the program, the Paycheck Protection Program that her parents have used, was designed to go out to companies with 10 or fewer employees. That's actually not true. It's supposed to go to 500 or fewer employees, essentially small businesses, right? But she said the vast majority, as I noted, 1 million of the 1.6 million loans that went out were companies with 10 or fewer employees. Well, no, that's not who they're helping. They're helping people that are actually these companies that are much, much bigger than 10 employees and even 500 employees. Now, that said, let's go to another beneficiary. Happens to be Steven Mnuchin's favorite golf course that he was a member of. Now, this is the Riviera Country Club. It's a nice, swanky golf club in L.A. They received about $2 to $5 million in assistance through the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, Mnuchin also happens to assist in the operation of that program. So, no surprise that his favorite golf course that he's a member of happened to get bailed out by a program that he administered. Of course, right? So to be fair, we don't know if he's still involved with that organization or not, but he has attended the establishment as far back as 2019, as last year. So Now, the thing is, right, is that, again, this is supposed to assist companies with 500 workers on payroll or fewer, small businesses. But unfortunately, according to the Daily Beast, scads of for-profit and nonprofit operations tied to members of Congress, current and former White House aides, and political vendors and lobbyists associated with members of both parties uh, were able to receive these loans, even if they had more than 500 employees. Not only that, but millions more went to the Church of Scientology and other religious institutions. But hey, that golf course retained 159 jobs at the cost of $2 to $5 million. Right. Now, as mentioned by the Daily Beast, religious institutions also got a cut of that money. In fact, more than 10,000 had taken a combined near $3 billion in coronavirus financial aid from the U.S. government, according to an analysis by The Guardian. A list of recipients of the federal Paycheck Protection Program payments includes churches, synagogues, temples, and private religious schools. Among them are ministries of wealthy televangelists accused of fraud, and even one secretive sect. Not only that, but you also had religious leaders who had advised the Trump administration have received millions, as did a non-for-profit organization that supports Israeli soldiers. Great. I don't know. Look, the whole thing about these religious institutions, churches, right, getting government, basically what's government grants, right, as long as they don't fire people. And some of that money goes to paying their rent and utilities. Isn't that a violation of the First Amendment, separation of church and state? We're basically funding religions. Isn't that weird? I mean, this is the clergy, right? This is money going to pay priests. I mean, it's really, I don't like it. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable. So now, that said, right, according to the SBA, 19 organizations that have received the highest loan amount available between $5 and $10 million were religious. 7 of those 19 were affiliated with the Catholic Church, including the Archdiocese of New York. Life Church, which is headquartered in Edmond, Oklahoma, but has 34 locations and produces podcasts and online religion programs, received between $5 and $10 million and said the money would help retain just 451 workers. Look, even if these churches, even if these places serve the community, right, like Life Church, right, I still feel uncomfortable because of the principle of not, funding, not using government taxpayer money to subsidize churches. And there's a good case to be made against doing that, especially considering some of the churches that have received this money were run by fraudsters. For example, you had televangelists Jimmy Swaggart, Jim Baker, and Peter Popoff getting a lot of money. Now, Swaggart, who leads the Family Worship Center in Louisiana, had been defrocked by the Pentecostal Assemblies of God back in the 90s for being implicated in sex scandals. He received between $2 to $5 million. Jim Baker of Morningside Church Productions was defrocked by the Assemblies of God after a highly publicized sexual encounter with a church secretary, and even went to prison in the 90s on fraud and conspiracy charges surrounding his church fundraising. And now he's even promoting an emergency survival product. You guys know Jim Baker and his nasty food buckets, right? End of the world food buckets. Gross. And is now even being sued for selling a fake coronavirus cure. He received between $350,000 to $1 million. Because, of course. And Peter Popoff, of course, was exposed for using an earpiece to receive radio messages from his wife so he could pretend to know personal details about his audience during services. So, look, I guess that's like less severe. That's obviously less severe than like fraud and sex stuff, but still pretty dirty, right? He received between $350,000 to $1 million. Word of Faith Fellowship also received money. That organization had been investigated for allegedly abusing its congregants, and its leaders have faced charges from both fraud to human trafficking. And yet, again, they receive money. I mean, it's amazing. These people are criminals. And they're, obvious hucksters and fraudsters, and yet the taxpayer is subsidizing them. It's amazing. Now, that said, some of these same people are actually super rich and didn't need that money in the first place. So let's go to this, right? Mac Hammond. Mac Hammond's church, Living Word Christian Center in Minnesota, acquired a private jet on March 11th, just before coronavirus took off in the United States. Now, if you can buy a private jet, then I'm pretty sure that you can fund your employees during coronavirus. I mean, here's an idea. You could sell your private jet. You don't need to go begging the taxpayer for money. But that's exactly what they did. Again, you have to go and apply for these Paycheck Protection Program loans to the Small Business Administration, right? How many actual good small businesses that serve their community were screwed out of loans because the money was all eaten up by these rich assholes? How much? Billions of dollars. More. That same church was approved for between $2 and $5 million in coronavirus aid. Another top loan recipient is Joyce Meyer Ministries, a Missouri-based Christian ministry that hosts TV shows and radio programs. They received between $5 and $10 million, even though they reported having $12 million cash on hand at the end of 2019, according to an annual financial report. They had money. But apparently, it's not enough to support Meyer's lavish lifestyle. Back in 2003, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch published a 4-part special detailing Meyer's $10 million corporate jet, $2 million home, and other houses. Well, of course, you got to come begging to the taxpayer to keep up your lavish lifestyle. I mean, those jets, they're not going to buy themselves. And what is God? Is God going to buy you a jet? No, God needs you to buy him a jet. Sickening. All right. And all of this is in context of the crumbs that you and I have received, right? That regular people have received. One $1,200 check and some unemployment benefits. But we're not done. Now, it's also found out that several religious groups whose leaders are reportedly Trump evangelical advisors also took between $2 and $5 million each. One of them is Paula White. Now, Paula White's City of Destiny received between $150,000 to $350,000. She's also the chair of Donald Trump's Faith and Opportunity Initiative. Eternal Word Television Network, conservative Catholic network in which Trump has appeared before to announce his executive order on protecting statues, Confederate statues. They received between $2 and $5 million. And of course, it's not just churches that have received this money. It's also non-ministry organizations, including Friends of the Israel Defense Forces. So now we're subsidizing Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces. Now that's sickening, given the fact that the Israeli Defense Forces are oppressing Palestinians. I mean, that's our money. Our money's going to that, right? To people who support that. Now, they describe their mission is to offer educational, cultural, recreational, and social service programs that facilitates and provides hope, purpose, and life-changing support for the soldiers who protect Israel and Jews worldwide. They receive between $2 and $5 million. And then here's the coup de grace, right? And by the way, before I get to that, Nancy Pelosi's husband got $350,000 to $1 million. So don't think that it's just, Donald Trump or people associated with Donald Trump. They're kind of all in on it. Everybody, all the pigs are going to the trough. All of them. All right. So now, that said, one more. It turns out you also have hate groups that are receiving this money. For example, the Anti-Immigrant Center for Immigration Studies, they receive money. The Federation for American Immigration Reform, anti-Muslim hate group Center for Security Policy, and the American Family Association, which is another anti-LGBT hate group, the Liberty Council, and the Pacific Justice Institute. These 6 nonprofits got between $2,350,000 and $5,700,000 in loans, which will be fully forgiven if the groups maintain their payrolls. And of course, that's the whole rub, right? If they maintain their payrolls, which, by the way, only 60% of the money that they receive can go to payroll. The rest can go to whatever they want: rents, utilities, and anything extra. So if 60% of that money goes to their keeping employees on staff, then it becomes a grant. Billions of dollars in free money to hate groups. I mean, and the Friends of Israel and all that stuff. Jesus. What a list. What a list of people and organizations that we are funded while we are all suffering because the government refuses to help us in any sort of meaningful way. And by the way, do you see these same churches, these same companies helping regular people out? I mean, look, other than keeping people on staff, right, which is what they're supposed to do, so that's like the bare minimum. What are they doing for anyone else? And by the way, a lot of these companies are still laying people off, but they still have to keep some people on staff in order to get that money. And look, they can still let people go, and then it just turns into a loan, which, again, they could do all sorts of accounting tricks to probably be able to get out of. Accounting tricks that you and I don't have the ability to do. Corporate leverages, buyouts from other companies that are, under their umbrella, all sorts of tricky moves that they can do to get out of repaying loans. Of course. Look, we've forgotten about, or I should say the government has forgotten about us, right? Or just doesn't care. I guess I would go with doesn't really care because, look, we got over 40 million people that are unemployed. We got essential workers that are getting still, that are still having to put their lives on the line and getting crap wages for it. They're not getting anything extra. They're bearing all the risk. Where's the people's bailout? Where is it? Well, it's not coming. Not with this corrupt government, which is, of course, giving money to their friends, their allies, and even religious institutions. As usual, we've learned the government doesn't work for us. They only work for themselves, their buddies, and most importantly, the donors. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.